Good evening, dear church. We've had quite an intense week here. The last 2 to 3 weeks have been quite busy, and been seeing a lot of people. Have been teaching a lot, and I just felt really drained this past week. And I just couldn't get up this morning to get my brain into functioning mode so that I could prepare the lesson that I had in mind on one of the first characteristics of children specifically, that's in line with this sermon series about children that I wanted to share with you. And we've got visitors coming tonight, and so they're going to be with us the whole weekend. Some family members staying with us, and so I just basically had today. I was out of town earlier in the week to see some baptized folk down on the south coast, and we went to go see a school headmaster to hear how we can make a spiritual impact. And so it's just been a very busy week, and I haven't had the opportunity to get to doing the type of studying that I felt this series is deserving of studying. And so what I've decided to do is, last week Sunday I sat in church, and the minister here at the church, Mr. Brian Lister, who's a very good mentor of mine, he did a lesson. It's not a very deep lesson, but it's very practical. And I had some young Christians with me that I invited to church, and they sat in church and they listened to this lesson, and it made a big impact in their lives because, it's very easy to relate to. And this morning when I realized, I'm not going to get my brain into studying, I just won't have enough time. Instead of providing a substandard lesson, I thought, let me message him and hear if I can't teach his lesson to you tonight. And so this is an interim type of lesson, and it might not be at your level, but maybe some of these thoughts you could share with young Christians or young people trying to find their feet in following God. It's called Traveling Smart. That's the title of the lesson for tonight, and it's just 5 rules for the roads. You go on a road trip. That's the sort of the idea, the analogy that I want to use tonight. We are all born with rear view mirrors. But we are not born with a reverse gear. Now, I know in the States, you guys don't really use, stick shift, but you still have a reverse gear, right? The reverse doesn't stand for racing, right? The R stands for reverse. We're all born with rear view mirrors. We all look back into the past, but we don't have reverse gears. We can't go back and fix. There are no do-overs in this life. You can only do your 20s once. You can only do your teenage years once. You don't get to raise your children again. We all have regrets because we all have this rear view mirror. In actual fact, we've got 3 rear view mirrors in our cars, right? And so I think, and we can't go back. And I think sometimes we spend so much time looking in the rear view mirrors that we forget where we are going. You can learn from your mistakes, but you can't spend your life looking back and what could have been and what should have been. We all want to get the future right and arrive at our destination safely. So we all have a general sense of where we want to end up. So today I want to give just 5 rules for this road of life that we're traveling on. 5 rules. It's not deep theological stuff, just very practical, and I hope that it will in some way or another make sense to us. The first rule is this: don't travel alone. Don't travel alone. Life is better connected. Why? Because we're communal creatures. We've been created by God to live in community. Okay, that is what the church is. You travel with friends because you don't want to be disconnected. Every one of us needs a life buddy, and that's why God created marriage, and He created friendships, and He created His church. You need to ignore that voice in your head that says, I don't need anybody, because you were created to be part of a community. You need somebody around you. Who you do life with often determines the direction and the outcome of your life. So even though we should avoid doing this journey alone, we should also avoid doing it with the wrong people. Sometimes we gravitate towards acceptance. In other words, when people accept us, then we say, okay, I'll make you a friend in my life. Acceptance is magnetic, and we gravitate to people who like us, right? And who accept us as we are. And oftentimes the people that accept us first are the people that we spend the rest of our lives with. This often happens in those change in life moments. You go to university and you make a bunch of new friends there. You get married and that is a new change in your life. Brings other people into your life. You have babies and all of a sudden there's new change in your life. You get a job and all of a sudden there's a new dynamic. But we need to be careful that we don't just accept the first people who accept us, because the people who get on the inside of your life will often determine the direction and the quality of your life. And also we've got to be careful that we don't simply share life with people who have the same taste as we have, the same hobbies, the same way of thinking. Music, we listen to the same music so you can be my friend, or we watch the same movies, we enjoy the same food, the same clothing, we both enjoy cars, we enjoy engines, we enjoy hunting, and so you make those people you make them part of the inner circle. I suggest that we need to make sure that we invite people into our inner circle who carry the same values as us, not just the same hobbies. And a value is something that you've predetermined is most important to you. So these will be people that've got your back, and you'll have their back, because you've got synergy in terms of your values. Now, this is extremely, extremely important. And we need to teach our children this, and we need to teach people around us this, that your friends determine the direction and the quality of your life. I'll repeat that again. Your friends, the people that you surround yourself with, they determine the direction and the quality of your life. And we need to listen carefully. I'm not saying that someone is not important or that anyone is less important. What we are saying is that inner circle, the people that you're traveling with, surround yourself with people who have the same values as you do. The author of Proverbs put it this way: whoever walks meaning does life with, travels with, whoever walks with the wise become wise. Proverbs 13 verse 20. Whoever walks with the wise becomes wise. You share your life with people who are wise, you will become wise. Wisdom is understanding that life is connected. Whatever happens today impacts tomorrow. Whatever happened yesterday will show up in my life today. And when we do life with people who are wise, we become wise. But the rest of the verse says, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. That's interesting. So the first part of the text says, whoever walks with the wise becomes wise, but the companion of fools will suffer harm. It doesn't say that if you are making companionship with fools that you're going to become a fool. It says that they are going to harm you. Therefore, don't travel alone, but find people to travel with who have the same values as you do. So that's lesson number one. Rule number one, don't travel alone. Rule number two, don't pick up strangers. I heard this definition of what a stranger is. A stranger is someone who is strange. The person said. There's a song by Jim Reeves that indicates a stranger is just a friend you do not know. The bottom line is this: we've got to be kind, but be careful. We've got to be kind to people, but be careful who we let close to our hearts. Careful about who you allow in your vehicle. Even today, in South Africa, you don't pick up people next to the road. You just don't do that. I don't know if they do that in the States. You don't do that in South Africa. Be careful who you allow in the inner circle of your life. Question: are there any strangers in your life? Somebody you picked up along the way who makes your life less healthy? Somebody who causes you to doubt yourself? Somebody who seems to be chipping away at your values? Somebody who seems to mock you or mock who you purport to be? Around them you start to begin to doubt your values. That person is a stranger and you need to drop them off. God loves them, but you cannot handle them. If your life is being drawn in a direction that you do not want to go when you are with them, you need to drop them off. You find yourself being dishonest, doubting things that you hold dear. Think about this. You would not repeatedly lend your car to someone who every time they borrow your car, they trash it. So why would you do that in your life? So that's rule number two. Rule number two, don't pick up strangers. Rule number three, choose a destination and borrow a map. Choose a destination and borrow a map. Everybody goes somewhere in life. The win for Christians is to head somewhere on purpose. There are multiple seasons in life, and it's important in each season to decide where you want to land up. There's the single season, trying to find a partner. There's the educational season at university. There's the married season. Yes, they are easy to see, but sometimes we get into the work season and we live from day to day. And every season of your life, you need to determine what the end will look like. There needs to be a goal to which you can work. If we do not choose what we want the season to look like, circumstances and people and life will decide for us. If I do not set the destination for the season, I will not be prepared for the next season in my life. Now, wisdom dictates that I'm thinking not only of the season I'm in, but the one that is after this. Wishing will not get you there. Wishing, saying, someday I want a degree, someday I want to get married, someday I want a job, someday I'd like to travel, someday will not get you there. You only, remember this, you only get to do your 20s one time, your 30s one time. You only get to raise your kids one time. Remember, we've got 3 rear view mirrors, but only 1 reverse. The only way you can fix the past is to do today right, because today becomes the past. And I'd like you to remember this. Direction, not intention, determines our destination. I'll repeat that. Direction, not intention, determines our destination. And discipline, not desire, determines destiny. And so, discipline and direction are the 2 key words that we need to carry around with us. And what is this thing about borrowing a map? Borrowing a map means that somebody has already traveled that way already. So we've chosen our direction, we know where we want to go, and we need to therefore consult people who's already been there, right? You want your first baby, go speak to somebody who's already had their first baby, who's been there, done that, learn from them, borrow the map. You just got married, somebody's been married before you, learn from them. Love and Respect is a book that I read earlier in my marriage, and that I really benefited by. Smart people learn from other people's mistakes. Dumb people say, no one can teach me anything. I find it so interesting. I've done quite a few funerals for unbelievers, and what's so interesting is that they would usually play the song. I don't even know who sings it, but the name of the song is I Did It My Way. And they'd be like bragging and think this is such a cool, this explains the dead person so well. You know, he did life his way. That's some of the dumbest words I've ever heard in my life. You did it your way? Okay. Reach ahead and borrow from the generation that went before you. I love this quote. Experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. I'm going to repeat that. Experience is a hard teacher because she gives the test first and the lesson afterwards. Asking for help is not weakness, it's maturity. Proverbs chapter 19 verse 20 says, listen to counsel and accept discipline that you may be wise the rest of your days. Ego is the thing that stops us from taking advice from others. So rule number 3, choose a destination and borrow a map. Rule number 4, pay attention to the signs. Pay attention to the signs. Foolish people say signs are for other people. That sign to slow down is not meant for me, it's made for other people. The speed limit is not for me, it's for other people. But then when we see other people ignoring the road signs, we call them foolish people, right? Sometimes it's hard to see the fool in the rear view mirror. It's hard to actually look at ourselves. Proverbs 27 verse 12 says, the prudent see danger and take refuge. They're aware of the signs. It is always tempting to ignore the signs. It is most tempting to ignore the signs in our relationships. In terms of relationships, nothing improves with neglect. One of the reasons we ignore the signs in our relationships is because we don't know what to do. We can fix a lot of things, but when it comes to our relationships, we do know what to do. If more than one person brings something to your attention, that's a sign. You need to pay attention to it. If more than one person tells you, hey man, there's something about your character you need to work on, you need to see that as a sign. If you ever say, don't ever bring that up again, you're probably ignoring a sign as well. So we need to be careful in our relationships with people. We need to be aware of the signs that's indicating to us that we need to be careful, we need to slow down, we need to take a right or a left turn. We need to be very careful. So, rule number 5, pay attention to the signs. That is rule number 4. Rule number 5, don't carry unnecessary baggage. Don't carry unnecessary baggage. There is always a temptation to overpack for a road trip. Have you ever been on a trip with a group of people and there's always this one person that's always got this massive suitcase, or 2 or 3 suitcases, when everybody else has got small one jobbies. Usually the ladies. The ladies have got big bags. If it's just one night sleep over, it's a big bag. I'll just take 2 sets of clothes. Now on a road trip, that might not be such of a big deal to have a big bag. But in the trip of life, that is a big deal. Unnecessary baggage will not only slow you down, it will slow down everyone else traveling with you. Baggage is unresolved stuff from the past. Stuff from the past keeps on showing up in the present, and they will show up in the future unless you deal with it. It empowers the past to derail us from our purpose-driven lives. The reason we need to examine how baggage is, or what our baggage is because we've all been hurt. We have all been betrayed. We've all been neglected. Maybe you had to move back home and forego a career because you had to parent a parent. Everyone has stuff that makes them vulnerable, suspicious, and skeptical. And sometimes it's hard to unpack baggage so you can move forward in an uncluttered way. The reason it's so hard to leave the baggage is because it's part of our story. But the reason you know it's important to unpack it and leave it behind is because the people that you watch walking with you, you want them to unpack this stuff and leave it behind so it doesn't mess up your trip together. If you don't deal with your demons, Amanda Palmer said, they go into the cellar of your soul and lift weights. And I thought that was quite cool. If you don't deal with your demons, they go into the cellar of your soul and lift weights. Unless you deal with the baggage in your past, unless you deal with that, come over it and move forward, it's just growing bigger and bigger. They grow bigger and stronger, and most people will lose sight of the source of the anger and angst and project it onto the people around them. Paul said, be angry, but don't sin. In your anger, do not sin. Don't let the sun go down while you're still angry. Don't give the devil space. Ephesians 4:26. Learn how to separate yourself from that which made you angry. Don't give the devil space in your luggage, a tow hold, or a handle. Don't give bitterness and resentment and fear and anger a place on your journey. And if you're not sure, if you're carrying unnecessary baggage, ask the people who you're traveling with. These are the people who have to duck your moods. These are the people who cannot bring up certain topics. These are the people who end up on the wrong side of tongue lashing. The fact that some people cannot talk about some things around you makes you feel like you're fine. But in actual fact, they are helping you carry your baggage. The people who love you the most would love you to unpack that stuff. The Apostle Paul is direct. He says, get rid of all bitterness and rage and anger, along with every form of malice. Ephesians 4:31. How? How do you get rid of that? By forgiving each other. Ephesians 4:31 as well. Forgiving each other, just as in Christ God forgave you. Ephesians 4:32. You do not forgive because people deserve to be forgiven. They may not be, but neither do we deserve to be forgiven by God. We cancel the debt because God cancelled our debt. So get rid of all bitterness and rage and anger, along with every form of madness. Close their accounts. I know it's not fair to forgive, because the people in our past that have hurt us. But this isn't about fairness. It's about freedom. Forgiveness is saying, you know what, you don't owe me anymore. So let me repeat the lesson for tonight, and then it's yours. 5 rules for life. Don't travel alone. Choose carefully who you will allow in your inner circle. Be careful. But don't go alone. Some people are so skeptical with humans, they'd rather travel alone. But that's worse. That's worse. Secondly, don't pick up strangers. It's important that when we meet quality people and wise people, that we stick close to them and let them stick close to us. But be careful of strangers. Be very careful. Number 3, choose a destination and borrow a map. Make sure you know where you want to go in this life. Have some direction and some clarity. But also, don't shy away from reaching out to people who've gone on the journey before you. Let them give you a map. It will help you on this journey. That's what wise people do. Number 4, pay attention to the signs. Listen carefully to the people around you. Don't be a fool. Fools ignore signs. Listen carefully to wise people. When a wise person and a person around you that you respect says there's something about your character that's problematic, listen to them. Don't be a fool. I'm not saying that they're correct, but they might be. It's worth it to check it out. And lastly, don't carry unnecessary baggage. Make sure that you get rid of that baggage. Let go of it. Forgive. Somebody has hurt you. Let go of that. It's in the past. Don't carry it with you. It's not only putting a heavy load on your shoulders, it's hurting the people around you that is traveling with you. Have a fantastic week, my brothers and sisters. Love you guys lots, and we'll talk again next week. Bye-bye.